How you doing, everybody? This is Jonathan King from the ClinchReport.com and PugilPix.com. I am here at California Mixed Martial Arts with owner and fighter Chad George. Chad, how you doing?
Good, man.
All right, great. What's it like now? You're the owner, California Mixed Martial Arts in Gardena, California. You now own your own gym. What's that like?
It's a lot of fun. You know, we have all kinds of people from first day beginners to pro fighters to amateur people coming up in the sport to people that just want to get in shape. So, you know, it's a lot of fun because I remember when I first walked in the gym the first time to where we are now. So it's cool seeing all the different levels and on every different spectrum. So it's a lot of fun.
How does it change your day-to-day business going from professional fighter constantly, which is always notoriously the most selfish of sports, you're always worried about yourself, to now owning a gym and running a team? You have a lot of great young fighters here. You're always cornering them at amateur fights and stuff like that. You have a lot of obligations now. Does that change anything in your fight game?
I really don't think so. I think it actually enhances it because now I can finally actually say, hey, I live and breathe this stuff. You know, I wake up in the morning, I come to the gym, I take care of the gym, I teach classes, I teach privates, I train. So my life is actually completely indulged into it from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. So I think in order to be successful in any trade, you have to be consumed by it, and I without a doubt do that now.
Now, owning the gym, does that kind of make it more easy to be consumed 24 hours a day? You got to live it, breathe it, and now you're invested in it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think it's coming with owning your gym. You have to have a great team behind you, and I do. My staff, my partners at the gym are just incredible that make the experience so much more worthwhile because I know I can count on them for things that I need to get done. So if I have to train, I know that I can take any one of my team members, my staff members, and they can take care of any of the tasks that we need to get done. So I think it's a team effort, which makes it possible for us to kind of keep this thing growing and keep it moving along because I still have things I need to accomplish in the sport, and if I didn't think I could do that while running a gym, I wouldn't have done it. I would have waited, but right now everything's just falling into place, and it's awesome.
Talk about some of the young guys you got fighting for you. You know, I know a couple of your guys were trying out at Tough. You have a couple guys fight for Spar Star. Talk about some of the young lions that you got, the young Cubs. I guess we'll call them Cubs because they're not lions yet. But some of these young guys, these up-and-comers that you got going.
We actually have a really talented amateur team. We've got guys from every weight class on the lower side of it, from 125 up to 185 pounds. We have guys that I think are going to be state champions this year. In fact, one of our guys was state champion last year. He's making his pro debut coming up in June. We've got you know, I think 4 or 5 guys fighting on the next Spar Star event. We had 2 guys fight on the last one. Both of them had outstanding performances. So, you know, we're looking to make big statements in the sport, not just in MMA, but in jiu-jitsu and boxing, every kind of facet of MMA, because I think it's important for all these guys to be able to compete on each individual level of the sport, not just on the MMA level.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. Now, you're only 32 years old, but you've been in the sport for a long time. You're a WEC vet. Your last 4 fights, your last 4 losses, pardon me, have come against some pretty well-known guys, Cody Gibson being one, Antonio Banuelos being another, Scott Jorgensen, and the 4th is Joe Soto. Now, all these guys have one thing in common. They were all world champions or fought for the world title. 3 of them are currently in the UFC. What's the reasoning? Why do you think you're not there? How come you haven't taken your rightful place in that division?
You know, I don't think that I'm not there. In fact, I think that I've always been there. I think the thing with me personally was always of beating myself. You know, I would get put when I was in the WC. I was young. You know, it was 7, 8 years ago, and I was able to get to that stage where I was still trying to figure myself out. And now where I'm at, I know where I belong. I can go to any place in the world, and I can not only be competitive, I know I can shut down any of these guys my size. I belong with the top of the food chain. And that's not, you know, I'm not trying to be cocky or anything like that. It's just I believe in myself now. It's always been other people believing in me. And that was always my downfall with wrestling as well, that everyone was always saying, oh, this kid's going to be champion. This kid's going to be champion. But with anything else, if you don't believe it yourself, when you go up against a guy that does believe it in himself, you'll lose every time. And now I finally believe it, and I think it's shown my last couple fights. Even my fights with, Cody Gibson and Joe Soto and those guys, it's not even that I got outclassed, because I didn't. It was making fundamental mistakes. When I fought Cody Gibson, it was like it was a mistake. I was winning the fight up until that. So it's not that I'm making career problems in the fights. It's just making little mistakes, and that's due to lack of own self-confidence in certain situations. But now, having grinded it off for finding whatever reasonings were creating those issues, we've scrubbed those off. And now I'm really excited to keep pushing forward and fighting the top guys in the world and proving that, not only do I belong there, I belong to be champion.
Excellent. Now, the Banuelos fight, that came during a time when you had a documentary crew following you, Occupation Fighter. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. I think it's still on Netflix, isn't it? Awesome documentary. You got to check out the work that this guy does as a fighter. It's tremendous, and it's a really well done documentary too. Anyway, I'm going to go back to chat. So at that time, that fight didn't go the way you wanted it to go. If you could go back now and corner yourself before that fight, if you could go back and, I don't know, step through a time machine and become the Mickey to Chatty from years ago, what would you say to yourself then, when you were this young guy on the way up with all this, with a bullet behind you, pretty much pushing you to the top? What would you say to yourself now as a coach to yourself then?
You know what? This is going to sound crazy. I wouldn't change a thing, because the losses of my career have allowed me to become the fighter I am today. So if I would have went back and changed the Banuelos fight, even though it was a close fight and it was back and forth, if I would have won that fight, I wouldn't have had to gone back to the drawing board and worked on the things that I needed to work on to get me where I am now. So I think people's struggles in life are what will allow them to become who they're supposed to be down the road. But without those struggles, you don't know how to correct those things and how to build from it, how to learn from it. So it's important for us to take those and not let those break us, but allow us to evolve.
Excellent. So now your last fight kind of threw you back into the spotlight, for good reasons and for bad. For good, actually, as a member of the sport, I'd like to thank you for being in a situation on national TV where you could have dropped some serious hammers on somebody that was unconscious because the referee didn't realize that your opponent was asleep. And you didn't do it. You did the right thing. Fighters are often told, you don't stop until the referee pulls you off. Now, you're a veteran of wrestling and jiu-jitsu. You understand when a guy's out. What was going through your mind when you locked up that unbelievable Von Flue choke and put Mark Vorges to sleep at the last Bellator event?
It was one of those situations where I had to make a judgment call. I knew that the referee didn't know I was working on the submission from the way the conversation was going between me and the ref, which probably shouldn't have been happening in the first place. But I knew with that direction, he didn't know that the submission was in progress. So when I knew Mark was fighting it, I could feel his tension, I could feel his breathing patterns. When I felt that all change, I felt the fight stopped in his arm, I felt his breathing change, I made a judgment call where I could have just popped up, and you're right, I could have kept hitting punches. But if you notice, if you go back and watch the video, I didn't just pop up and walk away. I popped up and actually still held position, and I held it to a security to make sure he wasn't going to pop back up. So I still did keep it controlled, but I just had to know that it was in a controlled position where he wasn't going to be fighting back.
Right. Now, the referee was arguing with you. At one point, you were saying, he's out. Is there anything that the referee could have done differently to recognize that choke that was in? Or is it just that sneaky of a choke? I mean, the Von Flue choke is a real sneaky choke. And all credit to Mark Vorges. A lot of people giving him flack in the forums too, but it's kind of tough when your arm's trapped behind your back. Is there anything else that the referee could have done in that situation?
It's a very tough submission to, number one, be in, number two, to recognize. So if you're not familiar with it, even if you're a high-level jiu-jitsu player or fighter, you don't know what to look for. So even with Mark Vorges, he's a great jiu-jitsu guy, and he's a very talented fighter. But getting locked in that, it's very hard to defend. So I think the only real thing that could have been altered, obviously, than it not getting stopped earlier, but was the referee looking for signs if he was still awake or asleep or whatever he could look for. Look for the signs, ask him questions. Those are the things
Right.
that most referees will do. They'll ask questions. And I think that's something that could have been done, but the referees have a very, very tough obstacle in front of them. They get criticized for it being stopped too early. They get criticized for it being stopped too late. So they're always caught in the medium, like, I don't know what to do. So, especially with that choke, it's hard to recognize.
Now, Chad, you fought at 135 pounds, 145 pounds. Where's the home for you?
135 is where I'm comfortable. People ask me all the time, are you going to drop down the 25s? Are you going to do this? I feel great at 35s. I'm strong. I'm faster than most of the guys at 35s. If I drop the 25s, I look at it this way. If the goal is to be world champion, you can't look at the path that it is to get there. You have to look at what the end result is. So if I look at the champions, Demetrius Johnson, TJ Dillashaw, is Demetrius Johnson going to be that much easier than a fight than TJ Dillashaw? I think everybody will agree, no. Right. That in fact, now I have to deal with the speed. So if that is even more of a challenge, it makes no sense for me to kill myself and change my livelihood to drop down to 125s. I know I'm strong, I know I'm fast, and I know I can compete with anybody at 135s. So dropping down just makes no sense to me.
So it's going to be 135, possibly 145 late minute replacement? Or do you think that you are a little small to compete at 145, but you do have that wrestling background, which translates well? Do you think that you match up well against 145ers?
I think I match up well against anybody.
Great answer.
But for me, 135 is where I want to stay unless obviously something popped up, say the Ultimate Fighter comes on and, we have an opportunity for a 145 like you get in the house or something like that. I don't know. But 135 is where I'm comfortable and, I feel I'm competitive with anybody in the world in that division.
Now, you've had a lot of injuries in the past. It took some time off. You've had a couple instances where you had a year between fights. Everything healed up? Are you feeling good now, ready to go?
I feel incredible. A lot of people don't realize that from 2010 to 2012 and some change, I had severe back problems. I had back surgery in 2012 to finally correct it. So I was dealing with a completely blown back for the major part of my career where I couldn't wrestle, I couldn't lift, I couldn't even run. And yet I was still able to be competitive. And I don't go and say, oh, I'm making excuses for why I lost this fight or this happened. It is what it is. I would have never taken a fight with anybody that I didn't think I could beat. But now that I'm healthy and I'm 100%, I feel the difference. I feel stronger. I feel more in control. And I feel like now is my chance to take myself and just catapult forward in the sport.
How long, at the end of this year, where do you expect to be? Can we expect to see you possibly in the UFC? I know you keep yourself in shape. I know your last fight was in Bellator. Like I said previously, you're a free agent now. Are you willing to pretty much take a fight anywhere you got to go? Or are you willing to go back to the regional scene to pick up another win? Are you hungry for a fight? What's the status?
I'm hungry to fight the best guys in the world. So wherever it puts me, if it's in the UFC, if it's in Bellator, if it's in World Series of Fighting, I want to fight the best guys. And I let my management at Miz Sports take care of all that. My job is to train, run this place, work with my guys, and they'll tell me what the next step is, and I'm always ready. If we get a call tomorrow, I'm ready.
All right. Do you have training partners? You got a new gym. I'm sure you got a lot of people you'd like to thank. No fighter is alone. Everybody has a team behind them. So go ahead and take the mic and say what you got to say.
I like to keep it real simple. I couldn't do this without the support of my family, my fiance, my incredible students at California Mixed Martial Arts. Everybody shows up every single day to train hard, and we have an incredible family here within the gym walls and outside. And then, of course, the fans. You guys are incredible. You guys for coming out and even allowing us to do what we do. And with this last win, the amount of responses we've gotten from around the world has just been unreal. People reaching out and thanking me for doing what I thought was just normal, And so between the fans, my students, my family, the media, thank you guys.
Well, Chad, I've been watching your career for a long time, and it's been a pleasure watching you grow from the purple head kid that fought with crazy emotion to becoming this well-rounded, thought-out tactician that you have become. It's really been a pleasure to see you work, and it's really nice to see you in your own location growing like this. It's actually absolutely awesome. Congratulations. Thank you very much.